Hello, everybody, and welcome once again to the Two Matts and a Jeff podcast. I'm Matt Moyer, along with Jeff Moyer and Matt Bannon. We're just some middle-aged guys talking sports, usually talking sports. Tonight, we're talking holidays, and we're going to do our countdown of our favorite, or the best, we should say, holiday movies of all time. Now, let's clarify, guys, right? We're talking about movies. We're talking about something that's more than a half an hour, more than an hour, probably in the movie theater movies. We're not talking about those TV specials. That may or may not be another podcast. But on this one, we're talking about the best holiday movies. So our happy holiday treat to you is our top holiday movies. Who's starting with their number 5 holiday movie? I am. All right, so here we go. My number 5 holiday movie is the one and only Die Hard. Yes, it is a holiday movie. If you watch carefully, you'll see it is a holiday movie. Lots of Christmas tunes in there, lots of references to the holidays, and there are not a lot of movies that are better than Die Hard, period, but I have that as my number 5 best holiday movie of all time. I mean, you think about all the one-liners from that movie. You think about so many classic lines and so many movies after that movie, which were Die Hard on a Bus, which was Speed, and Die Hard on a Plane, Passenger 57. Everything was a Die Hard ripoff, but that's the original, and that's my number 5 Christmas movie. You can argue with me if you want to, but you'd be wrong. So,
okay, well, I don't know how you guys made your lists. I made my list as in it's top 5 for me. Like, it's not like I didn't look at statistics. I didn't look at. Well, I meant even to say like
the box office,
box draw, any of that. This is like if I have 5 movies.
What you think is the
I'm
best.
gonna. Which one are you stopping on with the remote?
Right.
That's okay. That's what I was gonna say. Yep. So, my number 5 is completely opposite of yours, and that's gonna be the Polar Express. So even though it's kid. It is a movie, and that was made in 2004, and I think maybe part of that was because my sons were just, young age to be able to start watching, and I just really liked it. I really love a lot of the music that's in it, a lot of catchy songs, and then, the magical types of
That's
stuff.
why he's drinking hot chocolate.
That have involved. So, I like Tom Hanks, a lot of... But I just enjoyed.
Yeah, Tom Hanks played a lot of different characters in that.
So I like the Polar Express. Number 5.
All right, my number 5 is Home Alone. Might be higher on your list, maybe guessing, but Home Alone from 1990. Just love it. I mean, all the traps that Kevin sets up. That's the best part of the movie when the guys tried to get in or whatever. And Joe Pesci. And around the same time was Goodfellas came out. So if you look at the paradox between Joe Pesci and Goodfellas and his character versus Joe Pesci as the bumbling thief in
the
that
Wet
movie.
Bandits. Come on,
Wet Bandits. Yep. And Daniel Stern, who was the narrator for the Wonder Years around the same time as well. Whatever. So Home Alone, my number 5.
Well, that's a good choice because that's my number 4 is Home Alone. And, the thing that you didn't mention is like, how many catchphrases, how many things come from that movie, the smack in the face and screaming the Macaulay Culkin and all of that. So, it's one of those quintessential Christmas movies. It's on all the time. And, when I think about great movies, great lines always come from them. And when you say one of the lines or there may be a great song or something, everyone knows what you're talking about. So Home Alone's definitely one of those movies that everybody knows a part of it and made a career for a number of people.
Yeah.
All right. So my number 4 is The Santa Claus from 1994. Again, I just really enjoyed that. It's got a great holiday spirit. I think it's really clever. How they just came up, well, why did Santa do this, and how he came about different things, and let me see what I wrote in here, and how Santa does his thing, and how he realized then he became Santa and all that stuff. So I don't know, I really liked the Santa Claus.
Nice. All right, my number 4 is a movie called The Holiday. These guys, I'm sure.
That's a violation.
I knew you were going to say that, but it is. Hey, if Die Hard's a holiday movie, The Holiday is a holiday movie. Out in 2006. For me, and I know these guys like music as well. For me, there's soundtracks, but this in particular, the score. So the score, the background, not just like the songs that are played throughout or whatever, but the score behind scenes, I think is amazing. Hans Zimmer, if you know who he is, he's done scores for a bazillion movies over the years. But the score behind that, I even downloaded the score, not the soundtrack, but the score to the movie or whatever, because I really like that as well. Eli Wallach was a character named Arthur, and he's an older gentleman who's passed away or whatever. But the guy that he plays as the older neighbor in the movie, if you get a chance, take a look at it or whatever. But he does a really good job, and then obviously Kate Winslet, Cameron Diaz, Jack Black, and Jude Law or whatever. But I mean, shout out to Greg Deegan if he ever listens or whatever. But he'll understand why that's my number 4.
Well, there's certainly a lot of names in there, and I won't argue whether or not it's a holiday movie, but I will argue top 5 for that. But my number 3 is one you just mentioned, Jeff, which is The Santa Claus. And, a Tim Allen classic. All the things you said I agree with in terms of, the way they explain all the different things that Santa does. There's a number of different stories on television they've done about the backstory about that movie. Very low budget, not expected to be what it turned out to be. And for the time period, some pretty cool technology that gets, the way Santa comes down the chimney and some of the other things, and spawned a couple of sequels, which were not as good, but might make an honorable mention on some lists. But some pretty neat stuff in that movie, and one that, again, one of the things that I look at for any of these movies is if I'm flipping through the channels, would I stop on that movie? And this, holiday, Christmas time of year that it is right now, that's a movie that I can stop and watch any bits and pieces. There's certain parts I really like better than other ones, but, can always stop on the Santa Claus. And just a well done movie. Actually, little tidbit fact for you: it's a Disney movie, but Disney didn't put it out under their label; put it out under one of their subsidiaries. I forget which one it was, because they didn't think it was going to be what it ended up being.
Mistake on that, I guess.
Yeah.
All right, so my number 3, 24 hours of it, A Christmas Story, and that's from 1983. Just a classic movie. They have it on for 24 hours. You're gonna catch it probably at some point between Christmas Eve and Christmas Day. Again, I like it's old school. It's got the nostalgia. It's the classic. A kid really wants one thing. He really wants a specific item. Where if you have anybody who have kids out there, a lot of times they want that one thing. And like I said, it's just a classic story. And actually, it's interesting because I actually got to visit where the home is. And if you know about the movie, it is, they say they live on Cleveland Street. Well, here it's because this house is from Cleveland, Ohio. And it was on a street, I can't remember the name of the street now. But anyway, you could actually go visit. It's pretty neat.
And I believe they have special things where you can spend the night there. Very expensive, of course. You
Actually, you can spend the night next door in the.
But I think they opened it up
there
there
might be,
for like
but I
just
know
special
definitely
things. But
next door in the Krampus or whatever you call it, I think it's the
Clumpuses.
Clumpuses, yes.
The Bumpuses. No, Bumpuses or Clumpuses. They had the dogs. Oh,
Yes,
man.
the dog.
They don't
Anyway,
come
you
to me
definitely know
before
you
we're
can stay
done.
next door there, but that's my 3.
All right, my number 3 is Die Hard.
Right. You're redeeming yourself for that holiday one.
From back from the dead. Like you were talking earlier, yippee-ki-yay, blah, blah, blah. Welcome to the party, pal. All those. If you say those in the middle of summer, the middle of fall, anytime, everybody knows what you're talking about. John McClane, obviously. And what did I write down here? We were talking movies in general, like you were talking about before, that stands on its own. That might be top 10, top 5 movies in general, let alone in Christmas category or holiday category. So.
Perhaps one of the most underrated lines in that movie I really love is when he's in the crawling in the tube in the air duct. Come out to the coast. We'll get together. Have a few laughs. Great line. All right, so we're on to the number 2. My number 2 was Christmas Story, which Jeff already mentioned. That's my number 2 of all time, and it is just a classic kind of a story for one thing. And I think a lot of us could relate to. It was 83, which is I was a kid at that time, and same age basically as the kid in the movie. But certain things that you didn't mention, Jeff, that I think just stand out. The tongue sticking to the pole is a classic. a part that's kind of, it's at the very end, and it's kind of feels like the story's over, but it's not. When they go out to the Chinese restaurant and they fa rah 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 rah, and the duck where they got to cut the head off with the meat cleaver. There's so many little things. You shoot your eye out, kid. If you say that to most people, they know what you're talking about. And again, I think that makes for a great movie, all those great little lines that people know. And I think that's something in all of my list. There's lines from all these movies that pretty much universally everyone knows, and if they don't know, you wonder what rock have they been hiding under. And for me, Christmas Eve, part of our Christmas Eve here is watching A Christmas Story. We come home after church in the evening, and that's one of the things we do is we put it on. Whatever part it's at, doesn't matter, because if I miss the beginning, I'm going to catch it next. And that's a part of just, to Christmas. It's part of Christmas for me.
Definitely part of Christmas for me too. All right, so my number 2 is on one of your lists, and that is Home Alone.
Both
1990. Yeah, I had it higher. I just really, again, I really like it. I still laugh even though I know exactly what's coming. I think the actors did a great job, doing their physical comedy. And I like, just how he Macaulay Culkin acted as an adult, like you said, with the shaving and then going out and buying his toothpaste and all that stuff, and the fabric softener, and then of course the story part of it, with the old guy next door and how everybody thought he was a bad old guy, and here he was just an old guy that was misunderstood, I guess, or whatever. So, but again, I really liked Home Alone. So,
well, my number 2 is Elf from 2003. And if you don't like this movie, I believe you're a cotton-headed nitty muggins, or you're an angry elf.
Yeah.
But anyhow, I really like that. I mean, that's one of the ones that I watch. Joanne and my wife and I watch constantly all the time. And like James Caan as the dad too. I mean, like, because I think of James Caan as in The Godfather. That's what I always think of James Caan, and then him in that role is just like completely whatever. And then Zooey Deschanel in that movie, that's the best she's ever been in that movie. She's the female in that movie.
Well, I would say that would make my list of the most overrated Christmas movies. I just, it's okay, but it's just not one I would stop on. I know there's a lot of people out there who's going to throw a lot of hate my way on that, but I have to make that, and it's not making my list at all. But we're on to my number 1, and no Christmas list would be complete. And I'm going to guess, again, this has happened with us, that our number 1s may be the same. And my number 1 Christmas movie of all time is National Lampoon's Christmas Vacation. Just, an awesome story, 1989. I don't even need to write it down because I know that it's got, the music. It's got a number of different, music pieces that people would know. And all these movies really do. All of them have some pretty cool music that you can pick out. But more great lines than you can even throw, shake a stick at, that anyone, knows. Can't see the line, Rusty. Won't use bad language, but something's full, and he's emptying out there. Idiot in his bathrobe, emptying his toilet. Anyway, just a whole multitude of lines in there, and it's just one of those movies that could watch any time of year, but this time of year it's on lots. There are stations that have done 24 hours of it, and it's just a fantastic, funny movie. And even though like you said, what's going to happen, you still enjoy watching it, and you can watch it over and over again. So just National Lampoon's Christmas Vacation edged out A Christmas Story by a nose.
I will second that. That's why, if you can see on the on your TV, if you're watching, or on your phone you're watching, you'll see I have the T-shirt of it. So yes, National Lampoon's Christmas Vacation for me. Yeah, very funny. I think it's relatable. It's your any. We were just talking the other night about hanging our Christmas lights, and how something went out and we have to go and check and see. Now, we don't have to check every bulb because it's not that old style kind of bulb, but it's just very relatable. And let me see what else I wrote. I said I can tell you exactly what's going to happen, and I'll just shout out to my mother-in-law here, and I'm not sure she ever listens, but I think it's funny because she'll always come to our house at this time of year, and we'll sit down and watch it, and she doesn't know what's coming up, and I start laughing before something happens, and So anyway, but I also like that there's just great characters in the movie, and especially if you've watched, because I've watched all of them. all the different National
National
Lampoon with the Griswolds, and they're just great characters that you're expecting funny things out of.
Well, I'll concur. Obviously, National Lampoon's Christmas Vacation, obviously number one. And I wrote down, it's the gift that keeps on giving year after year.
There you go.
And my favorite character in that movie is Eddie.
Oh yes.
Oh my goodness, like that's and Edna's a close second with the
Yeah.
Pledge of Allegiance and stuff or whatever. But it's just that's iconic to me. That just
Exactly.
and Chevy Chase is just, I mean his facial expressions and stuff on some of the scenes or whatever.
Right.
And one thing I wanted to add, and I didn't write down, I just thought of is at the scene at the end. If you look where, oh my goodness, his wife's, what's his wife's name? Come on,
Beverly D'Angelo.
Beverly D'Angelo. Yeah, I can't think of
Where her hand is.
Where her hand is.
Yeah,
Yes.
I know.
Well, and I was
I really bet there's people out there.
Well, I was
don't
gonna
never
say
notice
is
that.
like since it's on regular TV.
Yeah.
You do have to watch. I think the unrated or the rated version, just because
The unedited
Unedited,
versions,
yeah.
when they
when
put it
there's
on television, they edit certain
Right.
things out.
Especially at the
And
end
it
when he
does those-
rants.
yeah.
Well,
It's just,
yeah.
it's just
Well, yeah.
little funny, and it's not even that vulgar. It's just
Not made for regular
Yeah.
TV. Well, one of the things they did really well with that movie is it kind of covers each kind of part of people's Christmas, season. It's got the shopping, it's got the
cooking.
it's got the family coming over, it's got the meal, it's got the getting the tree, it's got the going sledding,
Putting
it's
the
got
lights up.
the putting the lights up, it's got all the components just about that most people have during a holiday season, and they're all just ramped up to the nth degree of silliness and humor and so on. So just a great movie. So, as far as honorable mentions, I have a number of them. Probably could have made a longer list, but I tried to put it down again to the movies that I would always stop on if they were on television. And maybe that's part of my age too, because I know lots of people like streaming, but I still like flicking the channels around. And, you find, it's kind of neat to find that nugget of a movie you didn't know was on, and all of a sudden you're sucked into it, no matter what season. But in Christmas, there's a lot of them. So one of the ones that's on my honorable mention that is just quintessential Christmas and a great story is It's a Wonderful Life. It's black and white, but it still holds up to this day. It's well done, and a great moral to the story. If you're not familiar with it, basically, I really like the fact that it says, "Hey, everyone's life matters, and everything you do matters and touches people." And it's kind of a little bit beyond Christmas story, but it's that story wrapped around the Christmas season. One that you may not know, An American Christmas Carol. Anyone know? Either one of you guys know that one? All right. So, A Christmas Carol is the story of Ebenezer Scrooge, right? Well, in the American Christmas Carol, it takes place during the Great Depression, and the guy that plays Scrooge,
Henry Winkler.
Henry Winkler, very good. Henry Winkler plays Scrooge,
Oh, I remember
and it takes place in America, and he's Scrooge during the Great Depression, so he has a lot of money and people don't. And I just think it's a neat version of that story if you have the opportunity. It's hard to find. It's out there and it's playing here and there a few places, and because it was made in like the 80s, the quality is like you can't watch it on HD because there's no HD to it, but the story is great. So a couple more real quick. White Christmas, which I think is again classic. Scrooged, which Bill Murray, another version of A Christmas Carol, which is a classic story. There probably could have been 5 more different versions, but I like the Scrooged version. I think that's just a neat twist on that story that is more contemporary, although it takes place in the 80s. And the Polar Express made my my honorable mentions as well.
All right, I'll throw some other ones. I like the Home Alone 2 one. I do like even though it's the similar thing, I just like the funny, all the antics that go on there. I like Elf. I do like Elf. It just didn't make my main one. I will always click on the Santa Claus, all of them, 2 and 3. I'll just click on them.
I agree.
And
with that. Yeah.
you got to go a little bit if those of you that are able to watch Bad Santa. You got to throw once in a while. You got to throw that in there, and then I will just put in that I like Die Hard, obviously, but I don't put it in as the Christmas music. And then when I started looking, I don't know if you guys did, I just looked to see Christmas lists.
Yeah.
And then you start to go in, okay, if Die Hard is, then you got Trading Places or Gremlins, Batman Returns, like all these different
Lethal
ones
Weapon.
you don't think
Lethal
of,
Weapon,
like just
Rocky IV.
because they have Christmas in it. And then,
Rocky IV belongs on no list any place in terms of a good movie ever.
So, but anyway.
If you haven't seen it, you're lucky.
Yeah. So anyway, but yes, those are some of mine in there.
Most of them, I think you guys covered it. I had. I mean, well, I had the Santa Claus on my honorable mention because it didn't make my Christmas Story, What's Wonderful Life, America on 34th Street, Polar Express, Scrooge, Home Alone 2. I had down The Grinch, the feature film on 2018, the one with Benedict Cumberbatch, who just
The cartoon.
the cartoon version, but it's a full length film or
Right.
whatever.
Right.
So I didn't, that didn't make whatever, but honorable mention wise. And then I just had a couple other ones that I think are hysterical: Four Christmases and Bad Mom's Christmas. Have you ever seen those? Those are more on the
Yes.
bad Santa side
Yeah.
of things or whatever. But yeah, and then that's pretty much what I have.
I think it's, I guess that can come down to me. If some of those other movies are on, I'll put them on just because they're Christmas type movies. But yeah, they're just even like Jingle All the Way and some of these weird, different weird ones.
Right.
I'll put them on just because they're Christmas related or whatever. But not.
But if all of a sudden you have something to do, you'll get up and
Yes.
do it versus
Yeah.
if Christmas vacation's
Yeah.
on, you're
Watch it.
Right.
Well, there you have it, gang. There's our list. Happy holidays to you. Some holiday movies. If you haven't seen any of these movies, you need to get out and watch them for sure. Lots of great movies out there. So we wish you a happy holidays. And give us your comments. Tell us what you think of our list. If you are an Elf fan and you want to tell me how much you think that movie's great, feel free to do so. So we'll see you next time. You've been listening to and watching the Two Mats and a Jeff podcast.